Once upon a time, slaves were chained by iron. Today, they're chained by contracts. Back then, freedom was taken by force. Now, it's surrendered voluntarily in exchange for comfort, status, and illusion. You don't live in a free world. You live in a financially domesticated one, a world where your cage is invisible, your prison is psychological, and your chains are called debt. Debt is not just a financial tool. It's the most elegant form of control ever invented. Because unlike slavery of the past, modern debt doesn't require violence, just belief. Belief in credit, belief in reputation, belief that freedom can be financed. You think you borrow money, but in truth, you borrow permission. Permission to live in a house that isn't yours, drive a car that isn't yours, study in a system that owns you before you even begin. Debt gives you the illusion of ownership while quietly owning you. It's the perfect trap because it doesn't feel like captivity. It feels like progress. Every empire eventually learns the same lesson. Slavery through force is inefficient. Slavery through choice is eternal. When people believe they're free, they police themselves. They work harder. They borrow willingly. They defend the very system that exploits them. That's the genius of modern finance. It begins with education. From your first day in school, you're trained to equate success with debt. Study hard, get good grades, take out loans. You call it an investment in your future, but by the time you graduate, your future already belongs to the lender. The system doesn't educate you about money because it profits from your ignorance of it. You leave school with knowledge that feeds the machine, but none that frees you from it. Then comes the next stage, consumption. Debt gives you access to comfort before you earn it. That's how it seduces you. You can live the dream now, as long as you're willing to pay for it forever. The system sells you a future version of yourself, then traps you in the payments that fund it. You don't just buy products, you buy decades of obligation. If this is starting to feel too close to home, follow rich logic. Because once you see how this game works, you stop being a player and start becoming an observer. Debt turns time into a commodity. Every loan, every mortgage, every swipe of a card is a piece of your future, sold to the present. And that's the real transaction. You trade tomorrow's freedom for today's comfort. You think you're borrowing money. You're really borrowing time, time you haven't lived yet, time you'll have to repay with interest. In the old world, people worked to survive. In the modern world, people work to repay. And that's what makes this system so stable. It doesn't need whips, it just needs due dates. Debt makes you predictable. Predictable people are manageable. Manageable people are profitable. The result is a society that believes it's advancing, while it's actually just refinancing. Governments call debt economic growth. Banks call it financial innovation. Corporations call it consumer confidence. But beneath the polished language, it's the same ancient hierarchy, the few who lend and the many who owe. You're told that debt is opportunity, that it helps you buy homes, start businesses, live better. And that's partly true. Debt can build, but it also binds. Because the system is designed so that even when you win, you remain inside. Your assets may appreciate, but your dependence never disappears. Even your wealth becomes a form of captivity, locked in markets you don't control, valued in currencies you don't own. Debt has evolved beyond economics. It's now behavioral. Credit scores measure your obedience. Interest rates punish your instability. The system rewards not intelligence, but compliance. The perfect citizen today isn't rich or poor. It's indebted and consistent. Debt also reshapes identity. In ancient slavery, the master owned the body. In modern slavery, the system owns the self. Your worth is measured in digits. Your reputation is algorithmic. Your future is collateralized. They don't need to control your body, they control your choices. You decide where to live, but only within your loan approval range. You decide what to study, but only within what student loans will fund. You decide what to buy, but only within your credit limit. That's not freedom, that's financial simulation. The most dangerous part? Debt rewires your brain. Psychologists call it learned indebtedness, the state where your nervous system adapts to permanent obligation. It becomes normal to live in minus, to owe, to chase numbers that never settle. Debt makes you mistake exhaustion for purpose. You start believing that being busy means being valuable. That's how the system captures not just your income, but your identity. You don't even need to be in debt to serve it, Because debt isn't just what you owe, it's what you fear. Fear of losing the job that pays the bills, fear of missing a payment, fear of starting over, fear of not keeping up with the illusion of normal. Debt feeds on fear, and fear keeps the wheels spinning. If you've started to feel this truth unfolding inside you, like this video and subscribe to Rich Logic. Because the first payment on freedom is always awareness. Now let's talk about the biggest debtor on earth, the government. Governments borrow money they don't have from banks that don't actually lend it. They create currency through debt expansion. Money comes into existence when someone goes into debt. That's the secret behind the global economy. Every dollar, euro, or yen is born from obligation. The world doesn't run on cash, it runs on debt derivatives, promises layered upon promises until no one remembers where value began. That's why inflation isn't an accident, it's a reset mechanism, a way to erase the evidence of unpayable promises. Debt expands, value erodes, and the cycle begins again. The system can't afford for everyone to be debt-free. If people stopped borrowing tomorrow, the global economy would collapse in days. That's why debt isn't a flaw. It's the engine. It keeps humanity in a constant state of motion, working, buying, owing, repeating, forever running toward a finish line that moves faster than they do. That's not progress. That's treadmill economics. But here's the part that most economists never discuss. Debt isn't just external, it's existential. It shapes how we perceive morality. People now equate being debt-free with being good, and being in debt with being irresponsible. That moral framework keeps you compliant. It transforms economics into ethics. You don't need guards when guilt is the prison. Debt became the modern religion. Money is faith. Banks are temples. Credit is salvation. You confess your financial sins to credit agencies, pray for better interest rates, and sacrifice your time to the gods of productivity. And when you finally die, your debt outlives you. They even invented a word for it, estate, because in this system, not even death cancels obligation. But not everyone plays by these rules. The ultra-wealthy use debt differently. They borrow not to survive, but to leverage. They use the same tool that enslaves most people to buy freedom others can't afford, because they understand the golden rule of modern economics. Debt is slavery to the user, but power to the owner. They borrow against appreciating assets. They use tax loopholes. They let inflation pay off their loans with cheaper dollars. They make debt work for them, while the masses work because of it. That's not luck, that's literacy. The difference between the rich and everyone else is not income, it's understanding. And here lies the final twist. The one truth no system wants you to know. Debt doesn't exist in nature. It's a human invention, a social fiction so powerful it became reality. You can erase it with a stroke of policy, but never with a stroke of guilt. Because as long as you believe you owe something to someone, you remain controllable. The real debt is not financial, it's psychological. It's the belief that you are not enough until someone else validates your worth. You are born free, then taught to earn your right to exist. That's the foundation of modern slavery, a society that measures freedom in credit scores and morality in payment history. But freedom doesn't come from paying off your debt. It comes from realizing you were never the debtor. You were the collateral. Your attention, your energy, your time, these are the true currencies. And the moment you stop selling them cheaply, you stop being owned. Debt may run, the economy, but it doesn't have to run your mind. Because awareness is bankruptcy to manipulation. You can't escape the system overnight. But you can learn its language. You can use its tools instead of becoming one. You can become the lender of your own energy and stop financing the illusion of progress. So next time you see the word debt, remember, it's not about money, it's about control. And control only works when you forget you were free to begin with. If this message resonated, like this video, subscribe to Rich Logic, and share it with someone who still believes debt is opportunity. Because the truth is simple, the chains are invisible, but the door has always been open.